the only player in the baseball card game in the 1970s. Now, what's really wild is that you can pick up all 17 cards for less than the cost of a box of junk wax from the 1980s. Of course, that's if you pick up your cards in a low grade. If you want to get them in a high grade, it's going to blow you away how much some of these cards are worth. There's one card in this list that sells less than $30 in a low grade, but is over six figures in a high grade. And when I started doing the research for this episode, I thought for sure I knew who the #1 card would be. I was wrong. In this video, I'm going to share with you how you can start collecting your own collection of 1970s Hall of Fame rookie cards without spending a fortune, while also sharing with you how much those cards are worth in a PSA 10. Hey everyone, and welcome to Chasing Junk. This is a channel for collectors who grew up ripping packs, memorizing the back of cards, and arguing their stats well before we knew there was any value in this whole baseball card thing. We collected just because it was fun. But man, I wish I'd kept those cards in good condition. If you're one of those kids who ripped packs, flipped through Beckett price guides, or maybe recently dug your old collection out of the closet and was wondering if maybe these cards are worth something, if that's you, then you're in the right place. Here we don't just chase grails, we chase nostalgia. Stories that made collecting fun in the first place. And if that sounds like your kind of collecting, I hope you'll subscribe so you don't miss future countdowns and deep dives like the one we're going to go on right now. Actually, wait, before we start the top 17, I want to talk about a few of the people who were maybe Hall of Fame snubs, the people who almost made it in. And the first person on this list is someone I'd never heard of until I started researching for this video. That's the one and only Bobby Grich. Grich debuted with the Orioles in 1970 and ended up playing 16 seasons in the majors. He finished with over 1,800 hits, 200 homers, and 864 RBIs. And that's good, but it's not good enough for the Hall of Fame. The thing that really sets Bob Grich apart is his WAR. Now, his WAR, W-A-R, is his wins above replacement. That means how much more did his team win because he was on the team instead of someone else that they pulled in, an average player at his position. His career WAR is 71. That's higher than Ryan Sandberg. It's higher than Jackie Robinson. It's really, really good for a second baseman. Grich was a 6-time All-Star, a 4-time Golden Glove winner, and one of the best defensive second basemen of his era, even though I'd never heard of him. Now, if you want to pick up one of his rookie cards, you can get a 71 in a PSA 5 for only $15. That's a great value, and maybe one of the most underrated cards that we'll talk about today. Next on the list of people who didn't make the Hall of Fame is Sweet Lou Whitaker, who was the American League Rookie of the Year in 1977. In his 19 seasons with Detroit, he had over 2,300 hits, 244 home runs, and 1,084 RBIs. And his WAR was even better at 74. As a 5-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger, 3-time Gold Glove, and a 1984 World Series champion, you would expect him to make the Hall of Fame. He just didn't. You can pick up his 1978 Topps rookie card for just $10 in a PSA 5. But his PSA 10 sold for $2,700 in a recent eBay auction. Now, these last two what-ifs were big stars in the 80s, so I'm definitely familiar with them. Next on our list of people who didn't make the Hall of Fame is Dwight Dewey Evans, who played for the Red Sox. He had 2,446 hits, 385 home runs, 1,384 RBIs, and a career WAR of 67. Now, those are better statistics than a lot of people who did make the Hall of Fame. But he only had 3 All-Star appearances, and while he finished twice in the top 5 for MVP voting, he never actually won the MVP. Should he be in? Now, the final entry in the should be in is actually the first card that I bought from the 1970s rookie Hall of Famers, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. In my opinion, he should be, and that's the Murph. Bill Murphy has a 1977 rookie card, and you'll notice here that he's sharing it with 3 other people. Because Topps owned the market in the 1970s, they could do whatever they wanted with rookies or rookie prospects or future stars. And unfortunately, many of the cards on the countdown list today are shared rookie cards, which is totally a bummer. When you share your rookie card with someone else, the value is going to be lower. The other thing I learned from doing research for this video is most pitchers have a lower value on their rookie cards. If you want the highest value, you want to be a power hitter. Now, Dale Murphy definitely was a power hitter and should be in the Hall of Fame. What kept him out of the Hall of Fame? I think it's two things. Home run 1, home run 2. See, Murph had 2,111 hits, but he had only 398 home runs. Had he hit that 400 home run milestone, I'm positive he would be in the Hall of Fame today. Now, Murph was kind of the face of the Braves in the 1980s, but he was also the face of baseball. The 1988 Don Russett literally has his face on it. He was such a popular player, and it's not just because he was a good player, but because he was a player of integrity, of character. He was classy. People liked him. He was a great leader. And to this day, he's done so many good things with philanthropies and community work. Murphy is a really, really cool guy. Now, in 1986, when I was just 8 years old, I got a Dale Murphy signed baseball. It was my first piece of memorabilia, and it's not up behind me today because I no longer have that baseball. The reason actually, I do have the baseball. It's in my office at work. It just doesn't have the signature on it. And why does it not have the signature on it? Because I was a kid and I was stupid and I played with it. But I really appreciate my neighbors, the Gunthers, who, when they were traveling to Atlanta, they went to a ball game and they got a ball signed for me for my birthday. It was one of the most thoughtful things that anyone's ever done for me. I wasn't particularly close to those neighbors, but they knew I loved baseball and they got me a signed ball by one of my heroes. I think Murph is the biggest snub, and I wish he was on our list today. Well, let's get to the list. Number 17 is actually another one of my favorite players, and that's because we went to the same university. Jack Morris, who spent 18 seasons, mostly with the Tigers, is the big game pitcher. He finished with 254 wins, nearly 3,800 innings pitched, and was a 5-time All-Star. But the reason he's in the Hall of Fame, he won 4 World Series titles. He led the Tigers to their 1984 title, but where he's most well known probably is from 1991, where he threw a 10-inning shutout in Game 7 of the World Series to win it for the Minnesota Twins. That's considered by many one of the greatest postseason performances of all time. I got my PSA 5 for just $16. And And I've had this one for a while because I'm a fan. That's what the back looks like. But if you want to get this into PSA 10, the most recent sale was $1,120. And that's where we'll start our list today. Number 16 is another pitcher, Bruce Sutter. Or Bruce Sutter? I don't know. He made the split finger fastball popular and was one of the most important relief pitchers in that era. He finished with over 300 saves, was a 6-time All-Star, and won the Cy Young in 1979 with the Cubbies. So he didn't get into the Hall of Fame because of his postseason performances. He got because he kind of redefined what a relief pitcher could do. He made a huge impact, made people aware of how important relief pitchers could be. I got my PSA 3 for just $17. But a PSA 10 recently sold for $1,975. Number 15 on the list is Dave Parker, who, I'll be honest, I didn't realize he was in the Hall of Fame until I'd done most of the research, so I didn't even prepare a profile for him. My bad. If you're a big Dave Parker fan, drop in the comments some of his accomplishments. I just know that he was great for a long time, and he made the Hall of Fame. I got my PSA 4 for $43.35, but a PSA 10 will run you $2,135. Number 14 on the list is the Hawk. This is another 1977 shared rookie card with Andre Dawson, a great rookie outfielder. He played 20 years from 1977 to 1997 and finished with 2,774 hits, 438 home runs, and 1,591 RBIs. He also had 8 gold gloves and a bunch of stolen bases. That guy was fast. His defining season was in 1987 when he won the National League MVP with the Cubs after hitting 49 home runs and 137 RBIs. He had some injuries. Playing on that Wrigley Field turf really does a number on your joints and your knees. but still had a really impressive career. I got my PSA 3 for just $20.60, but a PSA 10 recently sold for $4,369. Now you'll have to forgive me because number 13 on the list is similar to Parker, someone I overlooked, didn't realize he was in the Hall of Fame, and didn't do my due diligence, which is sad because I was a fan of Goose Gossage in the 80s, but his rookie season was way back in 72, and he has a 73 Topps rookie card, which I think is one of the cooler sets of the 70s. Here's what the back of his card looks like. I got my PSA 4 for $29.48, but we see a big jump in value here as his PSA 10 recently sold for $8,562. Woo-wee. Pretty good for a pitcher. Part of the reason that card is so valuable, especially as a pitcher, is it had a pop of only 12. So it's a really rare card to get a PSA 10 for Goose Gossage or Rick Gossage. Number 12 is one of the greatest switch hitters of all time, Eddie Murray, with a really cool card from the 1978 Topps set. This is my birth year, and I think it's a really nice looking card. However, you'll notice that it's an all-star rookie card, which typically came your second year because it's detailing your first full year as a player. So we don't usually see these as rookie cards because they're often second year cards. Not the case for Eddie Murray. This is his rookie card. True power hitter with 3,255 hits, 504 home runs, and 1,917 RBIs. He was super consistent with his career, hitting for over 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. That's a really rare milestone. I got my PSA 4 for $26.35, but it's going to cost you $9,044 if you want to pick up a PSA 10. Now, card number 11 on this set comes from probably the most iconic set from the 1970s. That's the 1975 Topps, where the Kid debuted. I don't know why Gary Carter was called the Kid. Do you guys? Drop it in the comments if you know. Now you'll notice that Carter shared his rookie card with 3 other players. That means the value is less than it would otherwise be. But Carter had an impressive career with over 2,000 hits, 300 homers, and 1,200 RBIs. That's really good for a catcher. His PSA 10 has a pop of only 18. I got my PSA 3 for $22. But if you want it in a PSA 10, it's going to run you a lot. $23,385. So really, now we're to the place where you can decide, do I want to buy a car or a card? And now we get to the top 10. All right, so we made it to the top 10. Now, the interesting thing here is with number 10, we actually have 2 players. So there's going to be 18 players in this countdown, but only 17 cards, and that's because number 10 is a 4-person rookie card, but 2 of them are Hall of Famers, so that makes this card super unique with Paul Molitor and Alan Trammell, and I'm probably pronouncing their names wrong. I'm sorry, you can roast me in the comments if you want to. I don't know all the names. So Molitor had over 3,000 hits, 200 home runs, and 600 stolen bases. Trammell also had over 2,000 hits, nearly 200 homers, and was a great defensive shortstop. Of course, what makes this card unique is that typically the value of a card with multiple rookies is going to go down in value, but here, because we have 2 Hall of Famers, it's actually up in value and made the top 10. Now, my PSA 5 only cost $24.55, bargain. For 2 Hall of Famers, real bargain. But for a PSA 10 with just a pop of 30, you're going to have to pay 100 times that. The most recent PSA 10 sold for $25,100. Number 9 in the countdown is 1974 rookie card of Dave Winfield. Now, I didn't know much about Dave Winfield prior to doing research. I didn't realize he was such an incredible athlete. Tri-sport athlete growing up, could have played professionally in any of the leagues. Chose baseball and went on to be a Hall of Famer. He had 3,110 hits, 465 home runs, and 1,833 RBIs. One of the truly great power hitters. Now, this card takes a jump in value just because it's older. It's early 70s. It's a solo card with a low pop. I got my PSA 4 for $37.03, but the most recent PSA 10 sold for $28,800. Number 8 on the list is another one of my favorite players of all time. We've got pitcher Dennis Eckersley. And this 1976 Topps card I think is truly iconic. I love the style of this set. Eckersley was unique, and part of the reason he made the top 10 as a pitcher is because he was a different kind of pitcher. In fact, his career spanned two very different roles. He had 197 wins as a starting pitcher and 390 saves as a closer. And as a closer, he really popularized the one-inning closer, becoming one of the most recognizable relief pitchers of all time. And it's not just because he had cool hair and an awesome mustache. He's a pretty cool guy. I got my PSA 4 some time ago for $21.78. If you want a PSA 10, you're going to have to fork over $42,000. Coming in at number 7 is a little bit of a surprise to me. Catcher Carlton Fisk, who had to share his rookie card with two others, but part of the value here comes because it's an earlier card from the 1972 set. Now, Fisk was a remarkable player with over 2,300 hits, 376 home runs, and 1,330 RBIs, which is outstanding for a catcher. I got my PSA 4 for $25, but the PSA 10 was a whopping $55,200 because the pop on this one is only 11. So this is a really hard card to get in PSA 10, and I think part of it's because of the centering for this set. It's notorious for really bad centering. Again, when we collected as kids, we just wanted the card. We didn't think, is this centered? Does this have crisp corners? But that makes this card very, very rare in a PSA 10. Another surprise in number 6, because it's a multiplayer card for someone who wasn't as big a star as others on this list. We have Jim Rice's 1975 Topps card. So here he shares this with 3 others, and you wouldn't expect Rice to be on this list despite his stats. He had nearly 2,500 hits, 382 home runs, and 1,451 RBIs. That's pretty good. He was the American League MVP in 1978 and led the league multiple times in home runs, RBIs, total bases. But since retiring, he's really stayed out of the spotlight, and I think some of his popularity's waned a little bit just because we don't hear about him, we don't see him very often. I got my PSA 4 for just $34.12, but the reason this card is so high on the list is because it has a pop of only 8. With a card that scarce, it shouldn't be surprising that it comes this high on the list with a recent sale of $68,125. Now, most of the players in the top 5 aren't really going to surprise you, but before we get there, I want to just do a quick segue and talk about a few what-ifs in baseball. These are players who look like they might become Hall of Famers, but then for one reason or another, didn't make the Hall. The first player on this list I had to look up. His name's Mark Fidrich, and his 1976 rookie season is one of the most impressive rookie seasons of all time. He dominated batters. He talked to the baseball, and he was a cultural phenomenon known as the Bird. He had an amazing rookie season, but then things trailed off, and he never became the player that many thought he would be, so he's a big what if. The next what if is Vita Blue, who I remember collecting as a kid because he had a long career and was a solid player. But many thought he would be a breakout player because in his second year, at age 21, he won both the Cy Young and the MVP. That reminds me a little bit of my childhood with Fernando Valenzuela and Valenzuela Mania. Apparently that happened with Vita Blue in the 70s. And while he had a solid career, nothing really matched his second season. The third and final what if on this list is another person who had an incredible second season, even more impressive than Vita Blue, and that's Ron Guidry, who in 1978 won 25 games, had a 1.74 ERA, won the Cy Young, and helped lead the Yankees to a World Series title. It's one of the best pitching seasons ever, and it was just the second season for Ron Guidry. Now, he too had a solid career, but he never maintained that success he had as a new player in the league. So these 3 what ifs teaches a valuable lesson. You can have a lot of success early on, but that might not pan out over the whole career. And that's why I love collecting vintage cards. I already know what happened with their careers. In modern collecting, there's a lot of speculation, and you'll invest in a player that has an incredible rookie season, but they might not pan out in the end, and I think that's some of the beauty of collecting vintage cards. All right, time to step into the top 5. And to lead us off here at number 5, one of my favorite players of all time, right behind the Murph, is the Wizard. Ozzie Smith had the latest rookie card of this countdown in 1979, the only card from that series, so he was a true star of the 80s. The Wizard had 2,400 hits, 580 stolen bases, and was definitely one of the great defensive shortstops of all time. I loved his theatrics. He would do the backflips in the World Series and at other times. He was just a lot of fun to watch, and I grew up as a Cardinals fan, so he was one of my favorite players to cheer for. Him with Willie McGee and Tommy Herr, Gary Pendleton. Those mid 80s Cardinals teams were a lot of fun to watch. Smith had 13 Golden Gloves, which I think is the most of anyone on this list, and was one of the truly great defensive players of all time. I picked up my PSA 4 for $34.12, but if you want a 10, it's going to cost you $77,000. Now, you wouldn't expect something to go for that much as a more recent card, 1979, but it only had a pop of 5, so it's really, really hard to get this card centered, and you see how off-center mine is. And then on the back, you want to get it centered too. It's just really hard. They miscut a lot of these 1979 cards. If you can find one in really good condition, it might be worth a lot of money. Coming in at number 4 is Robin Yount. His 1975 card is more valuable because it's a single card instead of a multi-rookie card, and because Yount was awesome. In his 20 seasons with the Brewers, he had 3,142 hits, 251 home runs, and 271 stolen bases. But what made his career truly remarkable is that he transitioned his position. He started out as a shortstop, then moved to center fielder, and he was an MVP in both positions. My PSA 3 cost me $51, but for a PSA 10 in a pop of just 6, we get our first 6-figure card. This one recently sold for $102,000. Woo-wee! Number 3 is someone that you would never guess. In fact, think in your head right now, who have I not mentioned from the 70s that you think are the top of this list? We have 3 players left. You're going to know 2 of them, and they're going to be the 2 that you would expect to be at the top of this list. Number 3, not someone you'd expect. In fact, I picked up my PSA 3 of this card for just $22. But the PSA 10 is a crazy $138,000. Why is it so much? Because the 1971 Bert Blyleven rookie card has a pop of 1. These 71 rookie cards are incredibly difficult to get in a high grade because of the black borders. There's going to be chipping on the borders. It's hard to get them centered. These are really, really difficult to get in a high grade. Now, it doesn't hurt that it's a solo card, but he is a pitcher. He had 287 wins, 3,700 strikeouts, and an incredible curveball. But Blyleven's 10 is what really produces the high value numbers here, because only one person in the world has a Blyleven and a PSA 10. Number 2 is the player who I expected to be number 1. I was really surprised, and that's George Brett. George Brett had an incredible 20-year career with the Kansas City Royals, finishing with 3,154 hits, 317 home runs, and what really put him on the map was having 3 batting titles in 3 different decades. He was consistent and just a pure hitter. Now, this was the most expensive card I got in this series, and it's the lowest grade at a PSA 2, but it cost me $74.68 because this is a relatively rare card. It's hard to get graded in a high grade, but also George Brett's just a really popular and collectible player. I love the backs on these 75 Topps cards. I just think they're pretty. Now, Brett's PSA 10 only has a pop of 11, and it sold for $147,483. That's a lot of dollars. Number 1 on this list is the one card I don't own yet, because even in a low grade, it's more expensive than I had a budget for this time around. I hope to pick it up eventually. I just don't have it now. Now, this rookie card from 1973 surprised me because it's not a solo rookie card. There are 3 players on that card, and the featured player from this year was incredible. I didn't realize how good he was. He finished his career with 548 home runs, 1,595 RBIs, and many consider him to be the greatest third baseman of all time, and certainly the greatest defensive third baseman of all time. If you don't know who I'm talking about yet, it's Mike Schmidt. Now, to pick up a PSA, even low grade for Schmidt, a PSA 2 or 3, you're looking at $150 to $200. A PSA 5 is going to be around $300. And the PSA 10 with a pop of just 5 is our first and only card that comes in at over $200,000 at $234,000. I'll be honest, before doing the research on this, I had no idea, and I was totally shocked that so many of these cards from the 70s you could buy in a low grade for just a few bucks, but to get as a PSA 10 would be $1,000, $10,000, $50,000, and even $200,000. That's some serious dough for a low pop PSA 10. And that's the list. The 17 most valuable Hall of Fame rookie cards from the 1970s. 18 players, 17 cards, ranked by their most recent PSA 10 sales. Now, one of the things I loved about creating this video for you was doing the research and realizing how accessible some of these cards would be in a low grade. Prior to starting my research, I only owned 3 or 4 of them, and now I have almost the entire set of 1970s rookie card, Hall of Fame rookie cards. The best part about this is the combined cost of all of these cards is less than a box of 1989 Upper Deck junk wax baseball cards. The difference is these will retain their value, whereas the 1989 cards won't be worth much as soon as they're opened and out of the packs, with the exception of that Griffey or maybe the reverse negative Murphy or the error card on the Johnson. But we already know what we have with these cards, and they're going to maintain their value. I learned that pitchers cards typically aren't as much as power hitters, that solo cards typically don't go for as much, or do go for more than multiplayer cards, with the exception of 2 Hall of Famers on a card. And I love that I now have a Hall of Fame rookie collection that I didn't have to shell out too much money for. I'm not chasing the Grail cards, I'm not chasing the high grade cards, but I have a really cool collection. In fact, let's throw these up in my display so you can see what it looks like on the wall. I have 2 rows of my PSA graded display that are now vintage cards, and they're impressive vintage cards, Hall of Famers. I love how they look here on the wall, and that this is part of my permanent PC. Now, something that I really love about this collection is that there's 2 stories that we're telling here. One is the story of baseball. I still geek out reading the statistics and learning about these players. Creating this video for you was a lot of fun, even though it took a lot of time. But I also learned how scarcity, nostalgia, and timing impacted the value of these vintage cards. Certain players have just remained popular over time, and their cards are worth more. The position matters. But for me, what matters most is what memories do I have with these players. And with that in mind, I want to share with you my personal top 3 cards from the 1970s. Coming in at number 3, not worth the most, but I love Jack Morris. Number 2, another pitcher, Dennis Eckersley. And number 1, you probably guessed it, the Wizard. I loved Ozzie Smith. Now, had Murphy been a Hall of Famer, he probably would have been my number 1. So let's throw this up as an honorable mention. I'd love to know what you think about this video. Did any of these players surprise you? Were there any omissions that surprised you? Do you have different what ifs or Hall of Fame snubs? Which card would you want in your collection if money was no object? And which cards do you already own? And if you enjoyed this deep dive and want to have more videos like this, whether it's another decade like the 60s or the 80s I can probably afford. If it's the 60s, and I thought I might want to do a video like this, I want to do the second to last year of the stars of the 50s and 60s, because those are the cards I can afford to buy. Or maybe you want a specific set or some other angle from the hobby. Let me know what kind of videos you want. And if you do want more videos like this, let me know by subscribing and sharing this video with others. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.